Welcome to Live Life Driven. Thanks for tuning in. Hope everybody's having a great week or weekend, wherever you might find yourself during this podcast. I myself am enjoying this, we're in 2021 now. First full month. It's January 30th at the date of this recording. And I'm formulating my plan, and I'm going to make this a better year than last year. I saw an interesting meme. It was on Instagram, and now I see it on my LinkedIn account. And it's basically a picture of a shopping cart, and it says, I don't know one successful person who leaves their cart in the middle of the parking lot. If you're too big to do the small things, you're too small to do the big things. I love this because a lesson I taught my daughter early on, she was probably 5 at the time. We were walking through the parking lot at Target, shopping carts everywhere. And because I would drive a big truck, I always park towards the back of the parking lot. And, we're walking by all these shopping carts out there. My daughter said, why are all these shopping carts out here? I said, well, it's because people are too lazy to put them back. There's stalls for them to put them away in all over the place, and they're just too lazy to do it. It's pretty common. She pondered it. And we moved on. Well, a couple weeks later, same scenario, but I found myself putting that cart in a planter. We do that. We kick it up and put the front wheels in the planter and walk away. And I did that, and I get back to the car, and my daughter calls me out on it. She says, Daddy, are you being lazy? And I said, oh, you know what? You're right. And I was halfway in the car. I had to get out of the car, walk back to where I put the cart, and then push it down to the the place where they put the carts. And, it just really made me think, first of all, I taught her a lesson, and she listened, and she called me out on it. But when I think about this meme and what it means to do the small things, how important that is, and, as leaders and successful people, it's the small things that make the difference over time. And if you can develop those habits to do small things one after another, they develop into big things. We talk about starting businesses and our dreams of starting businesses while we're working for somebody else, and there's never enough time. Well, oftentimes I coach my clients that if you can spend 5 minutes a day on that business, eventually those 5 minutes equal hours, and hours equal weeks, and hopefully equals you starting your new business because you've consistently put in the time, even though they were small increments. Eventually you get there. It's one of the reasons why I really love the 75 Hard program that I refer to so often in my shows, because I am a full believer in the values of that program. But, one of the things about 75 Hard is that it not only it teaches you, techniques to have better health with your diet and working out and all those other things, but it also focuses on the smaller habits, like taking a photo of yourself every single day. And as a guy, or at least for myself, I'm not one of those people that I'm interested in taking selfies of myself, and even if I did, I wouldn't want to post them. But the thing about the 75 Hard program, those selfies, those photos that you're required to take every day for 75 days, that's one of those small things that we're talking about with this shopping cart. It's one of those little things that's easy to forget and not do, and if you don't do it, then you have to start 75 Hard over again. And it develops that habit over those period of 75 days. And hopefully when you come out of it, you've realized how important those small things are. So again, I just love this meme that I saw. It reminds me of my daughter, Darylyn, calling me out on the shopping cart that I left in the planter one day. And that's been a couple years now. I haven't left any carts in the parking lot, and I hope you don't either. Funny, talking about Andy Frisella and 75 Hard, he often talks about how he can tell everything he needs to know about a person if they leave the pee on the seat. So I'll let your mind wander on that, but he's got a point. If you're careless enough to leave the pee on the seat for the next person, then you obviously don't care enough about people. So, I've had a great week of podcasts and shows, and I was fortunate enough to be on Stu Messengill's show yesterday, which would have been Friday. He was on my podcast last week. If you heard the show, it's a great show. He actually does a lot of work with Tony Robbins, one of the icons in the motivational speaker world, as well as, just helping you get your life organized in business and personal. And I really enjoyed Stu, and he invited me to be on his show. And one of the things we talked about on the show were values and how important those values are. And I feel like it's the beginning of the year. We've gone through an election cycle, and we have a new president now, and a lot of people just, I don't want to say a lot, but people are lost. You got 75 million people that voted for Trump, and maybe the rest voted for Biden. I don't know. But there's a lot of people out there talking like, what do we do now? And it's a really good question. I, for one, am not going to allow whoever the president of the United States is to dictate how I feel on a daily basis, what I do for work, how I approach my life with my family, how I treat my family, and the things that I do. I'm going to continue to stay my course. Last year, I didn't let COVID get in the way of my success, and I had one of my best years ever. And this year, I'm not going to let politics get in the way with who I am. And that comes from knowing what my values are and what's important. And to be transparent to you, my listeners, my values in order are God, family, health, giving back, making time, and that's time for my family, and then finally business. That's the order in which I place my values and my priorities. And based on those values, I build out my goals. And those goals are what's going to satisfy my needs throughout the year, whether that's time with the family, what we do, how we do it, things that we buy and do, vacations that we take, and then all the way down to the amount of time I spend in business. And actually, if you really want to dig deep into it, how much money I want to make in business, because that's the least important thing outside of my family. So everything has a value and has a weight and the amount of time and attention I spend with it. And this is a great thing for you to consider as we're now in 2021. We've got, again, a new president. There's a lot of confusion out there and a lot of people looking for hope. Well, have hope and faith in yourself and your own abilities and desires. Generate what your values are and start working towards them by assigning goals to things. And you will find yourself in a much better place. And I just feel it's important to talk about this now because of the confusion and the hope that people lost in 2020 with COVID and the businesses that were lost. And I think it's really unfortunate because if we can push through the clutter, we all have the strength and the stamina to do much better. I listened to the history of Coca-Cola, the soda drink, and how it transitioned through World War II. Before World War II, it was a popular drink, but not as popular. And during World War II, it was promoted overseas on the front lines as a connection back to the country that they were fighting for. And it gave the soldiers some warmth and comfort and satisfaction. And wow, we're all the way over here fighting a war, but yet Coca-Cola is here. And it's funny, those small things that create spirit and happiness and connectivity. And Coke launched a major operation worldwide and became the figure that it is today because of those efforts back during World War II. And it reminds me of, this last year of COVID, and we're still dealing with COVID and the politics. There is potential to come out of this with something new, stronger, better, if you focus on what you're good at and in your dreams, follow your passions and your dreams. And again, utilize this show, this time, this message to develop your own values and goals and see where it takes you in 2021. You might just be surprised how much you can accomplish. Now, with that being said, Stu asked me on the show the other day, he says, your podcast is called The Answer is Yes. And he goes, it seems like you've been somebody that has said yes, and every time you've said yes, you've risen to the top of the food chain within those opportunities. And I suppose there's a fair amount of truth to that. I've had several different career choices in my 40 years of working. Yeah, I've been working 40 years. As well as in some of my hobbies, like racing off-road professionally and being able to race the Baja 1000 8 times, winning it in different classes and 3 times. And so there's been a lot of yeses along the way. And the reason why I've had that ability to say yes for so long is when I was in high school, I had the opportunity to listen to, and this is going to date me bad here, I was listening to a cassette tape on a portable radio. And the person on the cassette tape was Mark Victor Hansen, and he was a motivational speaker in the late 70s, early 80s. Mark's actually still around. He's promoting his new books. He was supposed to be on my podcast last year, and we just never connected, so I hope that happens again. But the phrase that stuck with me that Mark Victor Hansen said back in the 80s was, what you will believe is what you will achieve. And I've held on to that line ever since. So when an opportunity comes my way, I have the strength to say yes because I believe I can do it. And then I go after it and I achieve it. Now, it doesn't mean that my life hasn't had its share of failures, because it certainly has. But the yeses and the successes have far outweighed those failures. And it's interesting when Stu makes an observation about my life based on what he's dug into and understands about me, is that he sees how often those yeses have played out. So I want to encourage you to say yes. I know this is the driven portion of our podcast series, but I do encourage you to say yes. Go back to some of those The Answer is Yes shows that I've done with some business leaders around the world and hear their stories and how they've said yes to opportunities. You are capable of doing anything you put your mind to, including 75 hard if that's what you choose to do. Hobbies. You know, my wife's going to horse riding lessons right now, and that's a new hobby for her, and learning how to handle the animal and bring enjoyment out of it. It takes time and effort, but saying yes to these things really, really will make a difference in your life. And I want to encourage you, if you're thinking about starting a business, the time is now. Start giving it your 5 minutes a day, and then 10 minutes, and then more and more and more. And hopefully, when you look back at the time you spent in the early days, it was worthwhile time to create that business. My wife is doing the same thing right now. I don't think I'm the one that encouraged her. She came up with it all on her own. And I look forward to launching and talking about her business that she's going to be starting here very, very soon by putting those 5 minutes in a day. So, takeaway for today, the answer is yes. Start with your values. Build your goals out upon that. Don't let 2021 get you. Actually, I was when I was with Stu on the call the other day, we tuned into Tony Robbins' event down in Miami, and he was interviewing Pitbull. And Pitbull said a line. He got it from another rapper, but he was the one that brought it up. He said, 2021, W-O-N, one, right? He's going to win this year, okay? 2021. And I'm going to use that in the back of my head for this year. This is the year to win. Don't let everything get in your way. Don't let the clutter get in your way. Know your own truths. Go after it. Achieve success in anything that you put your mind to, and you will be much happier. I'm here for you. If you need me, feel free to email me if you need advice or questions. I do some life coaching. If that's something you're interested in, I'd love to hear from you. Go to my website, Live Life Driven, and let's figure it out this year, 2021.
It's up to you. The door is open wide. Feel the rhythm of today. Learn the part and join the play. The world is here. Let's take it for a ride. You could be loved.
This episode of The Answer is Yes brought to you by Baja Bound Insurance Services. Driving to Mexico? You can buy and print out your Mexican auto insurance policy online in minutes with their easy-to-use website. They also have great travel information to help you plan your trip south of the border. Visit BajaBound.com.